Hello and welcome to another video from Sustenance and Covering, the only YouTube channel you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. And today we're going to be talking about why Americans are not affected by propaganda. Very interesting subject, so just hang in there with me and we'll find out why. First thing, what is propaganda? And look, I've got some little notes. You'll see me looking down every now and then. But anyway, because I don't want to go through this more than once. Anyway, I looked all over the internets and Wikipedia and all that. There's a lot of definitions for propaganda, but the basic definition that I come up with from my own observations is any message designed to benefit any entity by convincing someone to engage in an activity that they would not normally engage in. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? You're just trying to convince somebody to do something they wouldn't normally do. So propaganda really could be good or it could be bad. The problem is that you usually don't have anybody standing in line to pay millions of dollars for airtime to tell people to be nice to one another, or drink more water, or eat bread, And in fact, I'm going to use that as an example. You will never see on TV somebody come on and say, eat bread. It's made out of wheat and water, and it's baked. It contains calories, and if you ain't got nothing else to eat, it will sustain your life. You'll never see that. And even if you did, that really wouldn't be propaganda. That's basically just public education. If somebody didn't know bread was made out of flour and water, now they do. However, if somebody comes on and they make a little TV show about 30 seconds long and it shows this little kid sitting there with a big smile on his face, rubbing his tummy, and you see him eating a piece of bread, and there's the package of the bread right there. It says Acme bread on it. Well, that's one elitist who's trying to sell more bread than his competitors. That could actually be propaganda. And in fact, lo and behold, if you go to the store, all the breads that are on that shelf will look the same, made out of the same ingredients. In fact, there's a common recipe that every white bread company uses, period. It's just the industry standard. However, if you look at the prices, the one that had the commercial has a higher price. And yet you will see people buying the expensive bread, even though you're looking at this bread that you normally get, which is cheap, and you don't see anything wrong with it. And propaganda can spread, because if one of the people buying that expensive bread is somebody you have a great deal of respect for, you're going to question your choice of bread. People, something else. All right, next. Oh, here we go. I just wrote this down so y'all could see it in case you want to look it up. Edward Bernays. If you're a truther with any kind of time under your belt, then you already done come across this name before. I think he's called the father of modern propaganda. You see, Edward Bernays worked for the German government. And during World War I, if you remember correctly, as soon as it started, everybody in Germany wanted to go fight. In the United States, nobody wanted to go fight. Even though neither had any interest in it whatsoever, the Germans wanted it. The reason for that was they had a ministry of propaganda. Now, certainly, everybody's aware that propaganda has been villainized over the years, because back in those days they would put up posters, in the U.S., don't listen to wicked propaganda. Propaganda is a tool of the devil. Well, make a long story short, when World War I was over, the U.S. decided they wanted Edward Bernays, because even though they knew that propaganda was evil, it was allowed the elitists in Germany to manipulate their people to go into war like that. The U.S. couldn't get their soldiers over there till the war was over. Yeah, and I know everybody, my pawpaw fought in World War I. Yeah, well, he went there about the last couple of weeks of it. All right, they brought Edward Bernays in to interview him. And he told them, when they asked him about propaganda, he told them, a democracy cannot function without propaganda. I think that's his exact words. And the explanation was, if you actually have a free democratic nation, of people that are free thinkers, that use their own minds and don't do stupid things. Well, when a war comes up, they're not going to just all run out there to fight. They're going to want to know, why are we fighting? They want to know if it's going to help people or hurt people, what's benefits for them. So with propaganda, you could manipulate those people. And if you've got a little elitist infrastructure, every election that comes along in a true democracy, people are worried. But with propaganda, you can actually ensure the election results before they even happen. So anyways, the U.S., they're interested in this. All the people that run the country. So they said they just go ahead and give it a little time and let the man be tested out. Well, sure enough, a test come up pretty quick. The U.S. cigarette industry or whatever decided that they could not sell cigarettes. They had some kind of product. Nobody wanted it. They weren't making enough money. Was there anything Edward Bernays could do to help them? And sure enough, he said, well, just give me a couple of days to think about it. And he went off thinking about it. And he had this uncle that was crazy, kind of an idiot. And he asked him about it. And his uncle says, well, cigarette is kind of a phallic emblem. So you got to make that woman think that she's getting a phallus when you give her that cigarette. I know this is really stupid, but just bear with me. Anyhow, even though his uncle was an idiot, he went back and he come up with an idea. He got him a truckload of, see, the women's suffrage movement was going on at that time. So he got him a truckload of trashy women, cleaned them up, put them in nice clothes, and he went to this big woman suffrage parade in Washington, D.C. I don't know, a gazillion women out there just marching with protest signs, we want the right to vote. And he dumped them off in the very front with their cigarettes. Okay, you following me? This is women's suffrage. And they're carrying signs that say things like, men will not tell us what to do. We're going to smoke a cigarette. We are living in a free democratic country and we'll choose to smoke a cigarette. Next day, cigarettes flew off the shelf. The stock for cigarettes went through the roof and everybody selling cigarettes got rich. And the U.S. was impressed with this. But they says, we really aren't comfortable. We done spent the last 20 years telling people that propaganda is from the devil. We really don't know if we want to hire you or not, because people kind of already know that you're bad news. Edward Bernays said, no problem, already got this figured out. We're going to call it public relations. So now you know why Americans are not affected by propaganda, because we don't have any. We got public relations. It's just a coincidence that one of the founding fathers of propaganda was the founding father of public relations, and the fact that every single thing he did with his propaganda company is exactly the same thing he did with his public relations company. Now, you say you're not affected because you don't buy cigarettes. They're addictive, damaging to your health, and you got to choke down 2 packs of them before you can even tolerate them. However, this brings up another subject. Advertising today. Are you affected by the Super Bowl? Now, everybody says that they just watch the Super Bowl for the ads, for the entertainment value, but they don't rush out and buy them products. Has no effect on them whatsoever. It may interest you to know that billionaires do not normally throw away money. So when they spend $1 million a second on a TV commercial, they're making money off of somebody, even if you don't think it's you. How about this for an example? I did not watch the Super Bowl, have not looked up any of their stupid ads, but I went online and typed in Google Super Bowl ads 2011, and I'm looking at the list, things I'm familiar with. I think Pepsi and Budweiser. But also said on there GoDaddy. Now, I do not have any idea what a GoDaddy is. Could be a scooter, I don't know. Could be a new way to wipe yourself. Have no idea what it is. In fact, unless somehow, someday, I'm hooked up to a life support system and a doctor comes in and says, look, you're going to die tomorrow unless you let us use GoDaddy, and guess what? It's free. Then I'm interested in GoDaddy. Up until then, not interested. Please don't post on my YouTube video what a GoDaddy is. Don't want to know. If this system don't collapse for 2 more years and they still got YouTube in 2 years and somebody posts on there, do you know what a GoDaddy is? I want to be able to proudly say no. All right. Okay, that there was commercial products. Unless the commercial products are produced by slave labor, which sadly almost everything commercial is nowadays, they will not harm anybody but you. You know, just like the bread. You work hard for your money. You go to the store with that propaganda, public relations in your head. And instead of buying a $1 loaf of bread, you buy a $2 loaf of bread because of some kind of commercial. That only hurts you. That just takes money away that you could spend on your kids' education or clothes or entertainment, whatever. However, what happens when the government uses propaganda? Public relations. Well, let's think about this. Have you ever seen a bumper sticker on a car that says, "Kill Muslims for oil"? Or have you ever come across a commercial that says, "Let's attack Pakistan to keep China from getting to the oil"? Or has anyone ever drove past you with something wrote on their car that says, "Support combat"? Of course not. See, that would just be somebody trying to make you do something. But it isn't using the manipulation that's associated with public relations. So we don't have things like that. We have things like support our troops. Should you support your troops? Well, obviously you should. These are young people going overseas to, in their minds, fight for your freedom. Yes, you should support your troops. However, the message, when a young person sees "support our troops" on the back end of every one of his friends' cars, next thing going to happen, he's going to graduate, and at 18 years old, he's going to be standing in a foreign country with a gun in his hand. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the people that make those bumper stickers, the U.S. government, which obviously is involved, they should support our troops. When somebody comes home from overseas with no legs, take care of them. If their head is all screwed up, make some kind of way for them to get help. And don't tell me about the VA. I've been in the VA system all my life. That is nothing but smoke and mirrors to make it's actually part of the propaganda machine. All right, well, that's about the end of my little talk here. I'm sure there's something else I'll think of later. But the last thing I got to tell you, I was told to tell you this by somebody: if you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.